Welcome to the Infrastructure Quilt Along by me, Christa Quilts. We're going to make row 9, the pieced strips. Now if you want to fussy cut your rows like I did, you'll want to mark the point at which you're going to sew. I'm marking the sewing line right now, and then when I cut, I'm going to cut 1/4 inch away from the marked line so that I know that my seams are going to be accurate. Do this nice and slow and carefully, and take your time. If you need to piece rows together, make sure that you cut 2 rows with the same fussy cutting area. This is the start of the first row, and then I had to do a second row so that I could match up the pattern so that I get it continuous. I've taken the 2 pieces and folded them over, and now I'm going to sew right at the intersections where the patterns overlap. I'm doing this on this skinny diamond pop strip, and I'm going nice and slow, taking out the pins as I go. This isn't the only row I'm going to fussy cut and fussy piece. I have a wider row that I'm doing the same thing. My mosaic dots print, I made sure to match up where the design overlapped, and my seam allowances right now are going to be much larger than 1/4 inch. The important thing is that I'm matching up the pattern and I'm sewing nice and slow. When I'm done sewing these rows together to create a longer strip, then I'll go back and I will trim off the seam allowance and also press the seams open. I like to sew as much as possible, so here you can see the 2 pieces sewn together and you can barely see that seam. Now before I pull the other one off of the sewing machine, I am going to sew the other strips together, and these have a small enough print that I don't need to worry about matching them up, and I can just sew them with a 1/4 inch seam. Got another one that I'm sewing together. I like to chain piece as much as possible to make the job go a lot faster. And when I'm done sewing everything, I'm going to continue to press my seams open. The little ones, the skinnier ones, they can get a little wavy and wobbly, so just take care, go nice and slow. Now you can see what the print looks like when I open up the mosaic dot strips. Again, you can hardly see where that seam allowance is. There's that extra fabric that I'm going to cut off when I'm all finished piecing these rows. Once the row is pieced together, I need to trim it to the correct size. So I'm using my mat and I'm doubling the strip, then I'm counting over half the distance. For example, if I need to cut my strips 60 inches, 60.5 inches, I'm going to actually cut them at 30.25. So it's folded over on the left and I trim it over on the right. And that allows me to have enough length on my mat. Next, it's time to sew them together. I wish I could sew this quickly in real life, but the trick here to keep everything nice and aligned and not wobbly is to sew in opposite directions. The way that I sew in opposite directions is I either sew with a light gray fabric or the dark fabric on top at all times. As you can see, I'm sewing the rows together, and I've got a total of 6 pieces that I have to sew together. I did 1 pair of 2, the second pair of 2 with the black fabric on top, and then I need to sew together the 3rd pair of 2 strips. And again, I'm chain piecing so it can go quickly. Right now, the black fabric is on top. Once those 3 are sewn together, now I need to join 2 sets of 2. So I'm sewing a total of 4 strips together, and notice the little areas where I had pieced the seams together, and I'm sewing with the black fabric on top again. And now here's the last part where I'm sewing all 6 rows together, again with the black on top. You can go back and re-watch this to see what I'm doing, but basically by keeping the gray fabric or the black fabric on top the whole time, my rows are nice and straight.